We have started to record the most recent session of SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, for the first summer session. It is Monday, June 19th, 2023. We continue to improve with last week's informative speeches. I will say a couple of things. First and foremost, when you are putting your slideshows together, always make certain that you go into the slideshow from beginning mode so we've got a full screen during your presentations. Game plan that out. Whenever you're putting your slides together, after they are, to the best of your knowledge, complete, then consider where you want to place your webcam, and during your practice sessions, go full screen so we don't see your slides on the left-hand side. Also, when it comes to delivery, we're improving with a smoother overall delivery. Now it's a matter of putting all of the pieces together, even though we're doing quite well. How can we improve week by week? In this case, from informing to persuading. There is not that much difference between putting together an informative speech with research or personal experiences and a persuasive speech, other than you want to sound persuasive. I told you last week that the fate of the Western world does not have to hang upon your persuasive speech, where the world's going to end or there's going to be nuclear war. But what is of importance to you that you would like to discuss? It doesn't necessarily have to be overly serious, but with the examples I'll show you today for persuasive speech research, and then tomorrow on Tuesday for persuasive speech topic selection, keep all of these in mind. Shortly, I'll be going to my website to remind you where all of the persuasive speeches are. But let's first go back to class time on Thursday for informative speech day 2. I have Class Collaborate Ultra queued up beyond my introduction to our first presentation of the day. Let's go ahead and check that out. As we always do, the video playback, as I've repeated over and over again, is essential to your long-term success. We will pick this up in progress from our most recent class session, and this is the beginning of Chloe's presentation on heartworms, and we'll take it from there. Class, I will play these to make certain that the audio can be heard and the video can be seen. So our first informative speech on day 2 is Chloe, and here we go.
Hey everyone, it's me, Chloe Bray. I am a pre-vet student at SAU, and this is my informative speech on what are heartworms. Heartworms is a very known subject around the United States, especially the southern part, just due to our muggy hot weather, which can cause a lot of mosquitoes. With it just raining today, the mosquitoes are going to be out when it warms up in the next few days, so make sure that your pet is on a heartworm prevention. So for my first slide of today's presentation is the definition of heartworms. Some of you may not know what heartworms are at all, but then some of you may know like a general representation of, oh, my pet has heartworms. So this is the correct definition for heartworms. It's a small thread-like nematode, which is also considered a parasitic roundworm that's transmitted through mosquitoes. After the mosquito bites your pet, the parasite travels through your pet's bloodstream and can cause serious damage to your pet's vital organs.
Used for the treatment of heartworms. The position of her body and her eyes, as is all of you, going to be changing throughout. Don't any of you so far are coming across as being really nervous. Same thing here, same thing here. Let's go back, as we've been doing so far this week, not only with videos from previous courses, but also with you yesterday. Let's watch roughly the last minute of this.
She has camouflage makeup on. So your treatments, you can have makeup, self-tan, and skin dye. But yeah. There are 5 different types of vitiligo. Generalized vitiligo, which is the most common, it is symmetrical on your body, and it's in a few areas, and then it progresses and gets bigger. And this type is usually around your hands, wrists, elbows, underarms, lips, knees, ankles, and eyelids.
3. Intro to Public Speaking for Summer 1, 2023. What is Nintendo? Nintendo is a Japanese multinational video game company founded by Fujiro Yamauchi on September 23, 1880 in Kyoto, Japan. Nintendo originally sold playing cards, but its first console was released on July 15, 1983, called the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. What is the Wii? The Wii is a home video game console developed and marketed by Nintendo, and it was developed by Shigeru Miyamoto and Genyo Takeda. It was released November 19, 2006.
She did. It's so helpful for you to set up the relevance of the video and go ahead and play it. And then after the video is concluded, let's play roughly about the last minute or so of her speech with closed captioning up.
The sounds are different. The quality is a bit different. There's a lot of many different things with it, but it's still a very fun game. So the Wii today is discontinued because it was discontinued back October 2013, but it's still actively used worldwide. I myself still use it. It's released in 2006, made a big impact. Since its release, it has sold 101.63 million consoles.
At the end, when the screen goes black, just hit escape and you see her structure all the way through. For some reason, with PowerPoints, when you put video on them, it's broken down with the video on each one. We had a couple of these last summer as well. But let's just start at the beginning and examine Michaela's style. Very attractive graphics all the way through.
That I go through personally, and it even caused me to have eczema. And some of the time, I don't even know that I'm stressing, but I am. It can be caused by jobs, schools, just the overload of work can be exhausting for the human being. It can also be triggered by health concerns, such as waiting for test results, start into therapy if it gets even worse. Maybe their doctor might need to put them on medication. It could be something medical. You can try yoga, meditation, even writing
professional things, because you never know if talking to someone can help you get scholarships or internships. So always just like try to talk to your professors and ask them questions about how they got in that position. Like if you want to be a teacher, ask them.
So our presentations for today in reverse chronological order were tips for college success, why stress and depression should be taken seriously, vitiligo, what are heartworms, the history of the Nintendo Wii console, and facts about potholes. Now I'm cheating a little bit because I'm looking at all of these tabs. This location on my YouTube channel in the playlist, there are a number of persuasive speech examples that I will be adding to over the weekend. But right now they include why you should not procrastinate, talk to someone about your problems, cartoons, why animation is an important and useful medium, positive co-parenting, heartworm prevention for dogs, pursuing celebrity lifestyles, all of which aren't necessarily the most serious topics, but persuading us does not mean you're going to be inundating us with hot takes. So as we conclude for the week, it's still nice to see the quality of improvement that all of you are making with informative speeches. Next week, we'll look at persuasive speeches, and then the final week will be wild card, a topic of your own choosing. Let's continue the overall improvement. It's nice to see. As for SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking for the first summer session of 2023, that concludes the recording session for today. As I think you all can see from the examples of videos from both Wednesday and Thursday of last week, the content, the delivery, the visuals continue to improve, but I'll say it one more time. No slides on the far left-hand side. Make it full screen, then consider where you want your webcam to be and take it from there. And then little things matter. Pay particular attention when it comes to visuals to the grammar, the spelling, the syntax, the punctuation of all of your slides. Go in and make certain that everything is perfect as you can make it, because any sloppiness is going to potentially impinge on your credibility as a speaker. Now, with all of that in mind, before we get into persuasive speech research in detail today, there have been a couple of you with internet connective issues. And I know that happened to me very briefly on Sunday. When it happens, you feel like you're lost. And I say that because for two reasons. One is that I received an email this morning from the physical plant that there had been an issue on campus with a tree falling down and there was power out on the east side of campus. A couple of you sent me emails indicating that your Wi-Fi was out, and that's not going to be a problem. There are usually more people with me live than there are right now, and I'm guessing that's the reason why. The other reason is this: you want to make certain that whenever the time comes for you to practice, everything is set up exactly the way you want for your presentations. And with that in mind, if you ever run behind, let me know. I have one more presentation to show you that is informative in nature because of one of those internet connectivity issues. This is from Trinity. I will place her informative presentation on the screen. It is on airborne illnesses. And here it is. You may be able to see at the bottom a little bit of the transcript of what she's going to be talking about. And there is the summary. That's a nice addition to Loom that I don't remember seeing before. Trinity also has made up her demonstrative speech. We'll either show that at the end of class today or sometime early tomorrow. But this is another informative speech from Trinity Roy. This is Airborne Diseases. Here we go.
Hello, today I am doing my informative speech over airborne illnesses. My name is Trinity Roy. First, we're going to start with what is an airborne illness. It's bacteria or a virus that are most commonly transmitted through small respiratory droplets. As you see in the on the bottom of the slide to the right, there's a woman coughing and spreading her germs everywhere in the air, and the man has a mask on, but the mask doesn't always protect you from getting certain viruses or diseases all the time. Next, we have chickenpox. What is chickenpox? It's an infection causing mild fever and rash of itchy inflamed blisters. What are the symptoms? Fevers, headaches, red spots, loss of appetite, and blisters. What's the cure? You can use oatmeal baths, antiviral drugs, or moisturizers. The history of chickenpox. In 1875, Rudolph demonstrated that chickenpox was caused by an infectious agent by volunteers with fluids from a patient with acute. As you see that below, there's a little girl with a high fever. She has spots all over her face, and you can clearly see that she's feeling a lot under the weather. Next, we have flu. What is it? A highly contagious viral infection of the respiratory system passes, causing fever. What are the symptoms? Pain in muscles, chills, dehydration, body aches, runny nose, sweating, chest compressions. What's the cure? Fluid replacement, bed rest, inflammatory drugs, and antiviral drugs. What's the history of flu? It spreads worldwide during 1918 and 1919 in the United States. It was first identified in the military in spring 1918. Next, we have meningitis. What is it? It's an infection infection of the fluids and the membrane surrounding the brain and spinal cord. What's the cure? Antibiotics, steroids, penicillin, or oxygen therapy. What are the symptoms? High fever, headaches, stiff neck, seizures, and drowsiness. What's the history of meningitis? The first breakout happened in Africa, was recorded in 1840, but it wasn't until 1818 that it really just was identified and was called meningitis. Next, we have anthrax. I hope I said that right. What is it? It's a serious infection disease caused by gram-positive rod-shaped bacteria known as Bacillium anthracis. Anthracis, I think that's how that's. What's the symptoms? A group of small blisters or bumps that may itch. Swelling can occur around the sores. Painful skin sores with a black center that appears after a small blister or bump. What's the cure? Option for treating patients with anthrax, including antibiotics or antitoxins. The history of anthrax. Anthrax made its record appear in 1419 BC in the early writings of the book of Genesis. Next, we have measles. What is it? It's a viral disease causing fever, red rash on the skin. Symptoms. We have skin rash, dry cough, pink eye, diarrhea, pain in muscles. What's the cure? You can take. There really is no cure, but you can take over-the-counter medicine or antiviral drugs. Measles, what's the history? It was spread worldwide from the Renaissance. Its epidemiologist was remarkable studies in 1846 by Danish physician Peter. And last we have tuberculosis. What is tuberculosis? An infection characterized by growth of new nodes. What are the symptoms? Pain in chest, problems breathing, coughing up blood, and loss of muscles. What is the cure? Antibiotics. The history of tuberculosis is TB in humans can be traced back to the 9,000 years ago, a city now under the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Israel. And today, that is all I have.
So let's go back and examine bits and pieces of her presentation. First and foremost, when you are presenting online, it's not going to be that dissimilar with your voice than if you were in a classroom that was interactive. You want to open your mouth, enunciate, and really let the volume come out. And that's something that you'll have to do later on. The other part of this, as you can see, go into the slideshow mode from beginning. I've talked about that obviously a great deal. And then we're not going to see, as you did at one point during the speech, take one of the graphics from your slides and actually move them. What's an airborne disease? And by the way, the other part of this is if anyone ever has an issue with challenging pronunciations, you can go online and find out how you can accurately pronounce a word or a term, particularly something that is health-based. You want those pronunciations to just slide right out as easily as saying a, and, or the, and attack the delivery and not be tentative. Pretty decent design consistency all the way through. As you can see, as we transition to influenza, meningitis, steroids, Again, for some of these, don't necessarily read the bullet points. I can read them, but try to, if you're going to choose this as a topic, try to make it more extemporaneous and conversational. And then we move on. This is what happens when you're not in the slideshow mode. Anything that is a challenging spelling, the editor is going to automatically pick up. And that's why I never want to see this. Then we move on to anthrax. Here's the issue that sometimes you face. If you're going to put on any type of an image, you can always take the bullet points, tighten them up, put them in a smaller font style, and then maybe just break them off here, or take that anthrax graphic and move it to a dead spot instead of, as you saw, she actually, I think, moves it right at the end of the point. Let's pick this up, make it a little bit smaller. You never want to do that during a presentation. Have the slides, the graphics exactly the way that you want and don't move them. That includes the webcam and that includes the graphics. We should not have a presentation where we actually see something being obscured like that. But as time goes on, you'll learn that. You'll feel more comfortable. We transition from anthrax to measles. Same thing here. Make it a little bit smaller and possibly directly underneath that last bullet point. That's where I'm talking about the design consistency, checking the spelling. So before you actually record, all of the slides have proper spelling. All the bullet points are exactly the way you want. And the graphics, which are fine, just need to be in a place where it's not going to obscure any text. Let's go ahead and pick up her voice in the last minute with the closed captioning on and check for complete sentence structure.
History, it was spread worldwide from the Renaissance. Its epidemiologist was remarkable studies in 1846 by Danish physician Peter. And last we have tuberculosis. What is tuberculosis? An infection characterized by growth of new nodes. nodes. What are the symptoms? Pain in chest, problems breathing, coughing up blood, and loss of muscles. What is the cure? Antibiotics. The history of tuberculosis is TB in humans can be traced back to the 9,000 years ago, a city now under the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Israel. And today, that is all I have.
Also, you'll probably want to have some kind of definitive conclusion.
Trace back to the
Here's the last
9,000 years.
10 seconds or so. Leave the closed captioning on, mute the audio. And how is she wrapping this up in the last 5 seconds? And you'll notice, as I've told you before, you want to wait 1001, 1002, 1003, and then stop. Don't cut it off right away. What I'm telling all of you when it comes to positive constructive criticism are areas in which you're going to be an old pro in time. When it comes to the design consistency of all of your slides, putting it in the slideshow mode, also making certain, as we see her speaking here, becoming more comfortable, more conversational, more extemporaneous, where we'll see more eye contact directly toward the webcam and possibly putting it in a place where the light is a little brighter. Are there positive elements to this? Absolutely. But in time, you'll notice that you'll feel much more smoother from one presentation to the next. Now, the next thing I want to do is to go to Blackboard in the student preview mode and remind you of a couple of ideas for this week before we go to my website. As you know from this location, I change this area every week by week, now that we're in week 4. And of course, the recorded archives are at Tools. You can check your grades for both the demonstrative and informative speeches. At Ultra, we are now on 2 different pages: menu, recordings. Everything we have done up until last week, 11 out of 19 course sessions, there's page 1, and then page 2, we go back to the beginning of the term. Please make certain that you're watching as many of these videos as possible. A lot of the things that I talk about can be easily corrected if you watch the videos, pay attention to what I have to say, and then improve. The content, the delivery, the visuals all really do matter. The homepage with the announcements I showed you, instructor information, a link to my website, will be going there in just a moment. YouTube, I added that during the second week of the course so you can check different kinds of presentations week by week. And at the syllabus, the itinerary first. Today we have persuasive speech research. Tomorrow, Tuesday, persuasive speech topic selection. Wednesday, persuasive speech day 1. Thursday, persuasive speech day 2. And all of a sudden, you can see at the bottom of the screen, we get closer and closer to the end of the semester. When we return to course syllabus, go to the syllabus itself. Scroll down to some of the projects. You will recall that last week I was talking about the last thing that you do for me, which is the self-evaluation speech critique, which is due on the last day of class. And as I say, it is, quoting now, a realistic appraisal of personal improvement during the course. Content, delivery, visuals. Keep that in mind, because after we go to my website, we are going to show you a few examples before persuasive speeches that have been done in my courses. Some examples. Let me make certain that my website is up for you to see, of self-evaluation speech critiques. My website is first. I have already scrolled to the bottom, and within the window, persuasive speeches beginning with animal abuse. These are in alphabetical order. We'll go through these in detail tomorrow, but I'll be doing it through Google Drive. All different kinds of ideas that have been discussed. First, we have persuasive speech outlines, some with interactivity. And then starting here, we will have persuasive speech audio for some students either without webcams or their webcams were not working at the time they recorded their presentations. Then we get into a lot of persuasive speech videos, which transitions down into wildcard. The last one that we see here is on long-term goals, a presentation that I plan on showing you. But these are dozens among hundreds and hundreds of presentations through the years. What is of importance to you that you would like to persuade us about? That is really key. Now let's go to my Yahoo email account and give you a couple of examples of what people have done in the past for their self-evaluation speech critiques. At the end of the semester, during the fall or spring, or at the end of a summer session, different things that people wanted to discuss. Here you can see all different kinds of items that have been passed along this summer, but we also get back to summer of 2022. Here are some self-evaluation speech critiques. Let's read some of them. This is from Elizabeth. Good morning. I feel that I have improved tremendously throughout this course. I have always struggled with public speaking, especially in college. One of my main problems in speeches is using words like and like, and this class has made me more aware of when I use these words and helped me limit my use of them. While watching myself in videos, I also realized how fast I talk when I'm nervous and was able to slow myself down while doing these speeches. I have also found confidence in myself. Thank you for a great course. So that was 1 year ago, first summer session. Then we go to another. This is from Zamori. You saw her during a recent class session. Quote, I feel that over the course of this class, I have become a much better speaker in general. I used to get nervous before the first and second recordings that I had to do even when there was no one around. And I realized why I am afraid when I'm just talking into a camera. All of the feedback you have given me has helped me to become more confident in speaking with confidence. I like the way she phrases that. I used to say no without hesitation if someone asked me to speak in front of a crowd. Now I feel more confident in myself that I will do well if someone asks me to speak in front of a crowd. And the reason I remember her recent speech is because she had her webcam in the upper right-hand portion of the screen. Her lighting was perfect, and you could tell she had really practiced. You can tell that from delivery, or just going through the motions would be the opposite side of the equation. Then we come to a third and final self-evaluation. This is from Braceland at the bottom. After completing speech 1113, I can honestly say I've improved a lot in different parts of organizing and putting together speeches. I was a little nervous at first. Sometimes I would sit in my room clueless of what my topic should be about. But after watching your videos and others, a great topic would always pop into my head. My very first speech was about something I didn't even know about. And I feel as if I were to get to do a redo, I would choose a different topic and get a better grade. From the first speech to the last, I can say that I become very comfortable talking and more effective with my research. In my opinion, this class would have been so much better in person, but you made it as if we were. You were very thorough in your discussion and made very good points about each speech, which helped me the most. Thank you so much, Braceland Glover. That's why, and I'll come back on camera for this, any comments I make are always couched in a positive way. Or if I repeat something about the content, about your organization, about your delivery, about your eye contact, about your visuals, about your slideshows, I always try to do it in such a way where you can maximize your efficiency first and foremost as a researcher, because then how you put your text and images together, that extemporaneous quality will be apparent. And with that text or with those images or video clips or interactivity, the conversationality will flow. Our third self-evaluation critique that you saw, she made a very good point. The more you practice, the better you are. I'm paraphrasing her, but that's basically what she is talking about. Let's return, before we get into some persuasive speech examples, to Blackboard. This is where we left off in the student preview mode. Let's go back to syllabus for just a minute and remind you of the course speech schedule for this week with day 1 and day 2. If there are any of you who have an internet issue this week, let me know. Virtually everyone that is on this list has logged into the course on Blackboard. I can see it in the Grade Center, but there are a couple of you who have never communicated with me in terms of sending me a presentation. That's going to be a challenge at the end of the term, because you need to make certain that you keep up with everything. Especially in an online course, it is more important than ever to be proactive in talking about topics, getting stuff done, always checking your outgoing email in the sent file to make certain that what you sent me is going to be easily seen by me and easily seen and heard by everyone else during the course videos. Which leads us back to the checklist of the SAU speech critique. When it comes to content, research, organization, introduction, main supporting points, conclusion, fairness, analysis, are you persuading us in such a way where the content makes it self-apparent that you are being persuasive? As far as the delivery is concerned, the extemporaneous quality, conversational style, eye contact, articulation, enunciation, vocal variety, nonverbal cues, persona. Do you sound persuasive without coming across as self-righteous or heavy-handed? In your persuasive style, do you realize if it's a controversial topic, there are people as smart as you, as thoughtful as you, who just happen to believe something a little bit different, depending upon the topic. It may not be that controversial. Then, of course, the visuals, on which the extemporaneous quality is going to make you conversational and smooth. The design, font color shading, spelling grammar, text image balance, interactivity, storytelling, aesthetics. Are you putting your slides in a fashion where there's nothing that's going to call attention to itself in looking out of place, whether it be a misspelling or a graphic that is too large? You want it to be aesthetically appealing, and that's why you always have to practice with all of those visuals before you even worry about the delivery. Do the bullet points matter? Do you need to juxtapose a slide, in this particular case, to help your persuasive case? All of these 21 elements matter, and that's why it is a big part in me determining your overall grade for a presentation. Do you come across this week as persuasive? And let me reinforce that. There isn't a lot of difference between informing and persuading. If you're informing, you're coming across in a more serious nature as a teacher or a lecturer, whereas persuasive, you're going to set up your thesis and reinforce it not only with the thoughtfulness of your slides and what you have on them, but are you persuading us by being sincere and looking at the webcam in addition to examining your slides? I have a number of presentations that are persuasive in nature that I am going to show you today as part of persuasive speech research, and also tomorrow for persuasive speech topic selection. You've seen this one before. I showed you this during the first week of class. Positive co-parenting from Sarah. This is the fall intercession of 2020. Pay particular attention to how she is trying to persuade you that if you are in a blended family, you can be proactive in trying to make certain that the experience is not only going to be positive for the family members, the moms, the dads, but most importantly for the kids. Here she is.
Hey everybody, my name's Sarah, and today I'm going to talk to you about positive co-parenting. It's something that is very important to me and affects my daily life. Not only am I from a divorced family, but I also have a blended family myself. I had 2 kids with my ex-husband, Lila and Kinsley, and then my now husband, Joey, has a child with his ex-wife, Peyton, and then together we have Harley. So we co-parent on all sides. So this is something that we've had to work on and still work on every day, but I feel like is important to a lot of people today. What is co-parenting? Co-parenting is where 2 or more parents work together to take care of their child in a positive and effective way. This can be done with just mom and dad, or with, when you get into more blended families, mom, dad, stepdad, stepmom. It's just important that we all work together to benefit our kids. Joint custody is what we should all strive for. It's not always the correct answer for every situation, but it is the ideal, what we should strive for. Joint custody is where both parents are equally sharing time in making decisions together. This does avoid the tricky, confusing custody orders that can get so out of hand and hard to keep up with. It eliminates that, and it gives you a more structured, easy to follow setup with your kids. This also shows your kids that what ended their marriage is not bigger than your love for them, because you can still come together in light of your differences and do what is best for them, and not just selfishly what you want, because of course we would all want our kids to ourselves, but that's not always what's best for them. It's best for them is having mom and dad in their lives as much as possible. Next up is happy kids. Positive co-parenting creates happy children. Your kids will be happier knowing that they have mom and dad, or even stepmom and stepdad in their life, and they don't feel like they have to choose one over the other. They say it takes a village to raise children, and that's so true. And the more kids that love your children, the better. So why not everybody love them and just leave it at that? It creates happy parents. Positive co-parenting is where you're going to put your child first, and then you forget the rest of everything else. It's not he said, she said, whatever had to do with your divorce. None of that even matters anymore. And once you realize that, it eliminates so much stress. You get to share the responsibility, and sharing your time can actually be a blessing. When your children are there, since they're not there all the time, it makes that time so much more special. Then when they're not there, then that actually gives you a break, which a lot of parents don't have. So you get that break to, make your eye appointments or doctor's appointments, or have date night with your spouse, because you have that free scheduled time that you can count on, which is so important. And then you'll have that other parent to count on too. Like, say I got stuck in traffic and my husband's at work, I can call my ex-husband and say, hey, I need you to get our kids because I'm stuck in traffic. And that's something that we're both putting aside our differences, knowing that we can lean on each other as long as it's to take care of our children. It's setting your kids up for success. By positively co-parenting, you are getting to be that positive role model for your child. Taking that stress and conflict out of parenting is going to reassure your child and set them up for success by learning from you. It also teaches them great conflict resolution by watching you and your current spouse or ex-spouse work together to come up with plans and solutions for things, which also teaches them teamwork, which is great traits to have going forward in life. And most importantly of all, it benefits everybody. It benefits you, it benefits your ex, it benefits your children most of all. And that is why this is something so important to me, because it benefits my beautiful children, who I'm going to show you here. This is from left to right, Peyton, Lila, Harley, and then down here at the bottom we have Kinsley. And this is why this is such important to me, and I hope you learned a little bit today. Thank you.
So that is the end of her presentation. I got very lucky. As you can see, I clicked on it just before it recycled. Pay particular attention to two things for each of our presentations today that were given over the past few years, around the pandemic until now. First and foremost, note she has the timer in a place where it is aesthetically appealing. She's in the upper left-hand portion of the screen. There's going to be minimal obscuring of text or images. Here it's not that big a deal because you can still see the face of one of her daughters. And her ability to speak in complete sentence structure. Let's go back roughly to the last 90 seconds of her speech, to about this area here. Let's listen to her concluding 90 seconds with closed captioning up, and pay attention, because as you know, the complete sentence structure is very important to me. That symbiotic relationship of looking at quality visuals, images, and text, remaining extemporaneous, speaking in a persuasive way, and doing it in a much smoother fashion as we go week to week to week. In this case, the third of 4 speeches. Last 90 seconds, closed captioning up, as is the audio.
Which is so important. And then you'll have that other parent to count on too. Like, say I got stuck in traffic and my husband's at work, I can call my ex-husband and say, hey, I need you to get our kids because I'm stuck in traffic. And that's something that we're both putting aside our differences, knowing that we can lean on each other as long as it's to take care of our children. It's setting your kids up for success. By positively co-parenting, you are You are getting to be that positive role model for your child. Taking that stress and conflict out of parenting is going to reassure your child and set them up for success by learning from you. It also teaches them great conflict resolution by watching you and your current spouse or ex-spouse work together to come up with plans and solutions for things, which also teaches them teamwork, which is great traits to have going forward in life. And most importantly of all, it benefits everybody. It benefits you, it benefits your ex, it benefits your children most of all. And that is why this is something so important to me, because it benefits my beautiful children who I'm going to show you here. This is from left to right, Peyton, Lila, Harley, and then down here at the bottom we have Kinsley. And this is why this is such important to me, and I hope you learned a little bit today. Thank you.
Nice conclusion, family-based, the relevance and importance of positive co-parenting. It will not surprise you to learn that Sarah earned an A from the course. Most of the examples I give you are from students who did quite well, not in every case, but usually for at least the presentation in which you're seeing. The next one is from the spring semester of 2021. This was not produced on Loom, but Microsoft PowerPoint with video embedded into it. This is on how you can improve the educational system. We have Talissa, who is still a student at Southern Arkansas University. I believe she was a freshman at the time she gave this. She was through one of my on-campus courses during the spring semester of 2023. And Talissa did quite well in the course. This is why should education be improved? Here we go.
Hi, my name is Talissa Mitchell, and today I'll be doing my persuasive speech on why education should be improved. So throughout my whole persuasive presentation, my main topic or main idea would be that children are falling behind. So why are children falling behind? In my opinion, children are falling behind because there's a lack of motivation, a lack of qualified teachers, and there's also a lack of college enroll tests that are only targeted to memorization. So my first subtopic would be a lack of motivation. When there are kids in school, homeschooling, any type of schooling at all, there is a lack of motivation. Some children or teens or college students or young adults need a little bit of a push to get them through their day or any situation that is given to them. And sometimes those pushes could be in examples of words of encouragement just to let them know, I appreciate what you're doing. You're doing great. You did this so good. You did anything. Any type of words that could make them feel better about themselves or make them want to strive to want more is also a good thing to motivate them. Another way to really push a student is to reward them. Sometimes the reward doesn't always have to be something physical or something right in their face. Sometimes the reward could be telling them that they accomplished this out of their class or they made the highest test score. And I'm not putting that in terms of, oh, they're boasting or they're bragging about it. No, just kind of let them know that they're doing a good job. My next subtopic would be a lack of qualified teachers. Everyone has had that teacher sometime in their life who they feel as though shouldn't be teaching them or shouldn't be a teacher at all. Me, myself, I've had a teacher who I felt that shouldn't have been teaching me or being my teacher at all simply because in the class, we were learning things that had nothing to do with the class itself, or it wasn't in the curriculum. And that also is put together with schools that are financially unstable. When a school is financially unstable, they don't have the required funds to actually hire teachers, or get the best teachers that they can get. So in their opinion or in their eyes, they just hire anyone so that the job can be filled, the position could be filled. And that's on one hand a good thing to keep the school up and running, but on the other hand, that's not good for the children because when you're in schooling, you should learn something from one year to take with you the next year. And if you don't learn something the previous year, what is there to take to the next? And my last topic would be a lack of college enrollment tests that are only targeted to memorization. If you have entered college or you are entering college, you're either going to take the SAT or the ACT or any other enrollment test to get into college. I feel as though the ACT overall and also the SAT are only targeted to things that you should have remembered in your past years of schooling until now. In one way, that is good because muscle memory is a good thing to obtain. But in another way, you're taking this ACT or you're taking this big college enrollment test that you're studying for the last 3 years, or maybe you studied just that year and took it, and take this one big test that will never mean anything to you afterwards. You take this one test and either get into college or you want to get into college. And then after that, that test means nothing, especially if you're a transfer student from another school. They're not looking at your ACT scores or how well you performed on this test. They're looking at what kind of person are you? What did you bring to the table at your other school that you can bring to us? And I feel as though that's how it should be. So one thing I feel though as though should be on the ACT should be a maybe 30% of the test should be targeted to trying to figure out who that person is or maybe their character. What good or bad qualities do they have? And can the school help them to work through them? Another thing I feel as though should be on the ACT would be a section based on problem solving, meaning can you handle these situations? Do you know how to move from this point to this point without there being any problems? Are you willing to get through things on your own? Don't get me wrong, you can ask people for help if you have a problem or a situation you can't handle, but we're talking about college. You're grown, you're on your own. You don't have your parents or your loved ones always there to spoon feed you. You have to grow up and learn how to do things on your own. And some things I feel as though happen in college with a lot of children that a lot of things involving education don't take into account of is that some people don't know how to solve problems dealing with drama, depression, or even suicide because what school wants to have or wants to be known as that school that lets someone commit suicide to themselves because they didn't know what kind of person they were beforehand, before they came to the school. And that also has to go back to people getting recommendations from people and also your accomplishments list. An accomplishments list or credentials doesn't always tell someone who you are as a person. It simply tells someone what things you have done to make yourself look good. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. And then my last thing would be common sense. Everyone knows what common sense is the knowing what, why, or how you should handle situations similar to problem solving. And that's it's no more that you can really say about common sense is that you either have it or you don't. So next I would just like to say thank you for watching my presentation.
Very smooth, very polished. It's not unusual the more that you present from demonstrate to inform to persuade. The quality of the graphics are going to look more professional. The way in which you approach the camera is going to be more professional, which means that blend of graphics and delivery ideally is going to enhance your overall style as a speaker. As we're going to be doing with everyone today, let's go back to 90 seconds before the conclusion. Pay particular attention now to two different things. Not only her delivery style with the eye contact, but also the complete sentence structure that she provides. Really excellent approach to organizing the concept of improving education. And most of all, is it realistic? Let's check it out.
Own. You're on your own. You don't have your parents or your loved ones always there to spoon feed you. You have to grow up and learn how to do things on your own. And some things I feel as though happen in college with a lot of children that a lot of things involving education don't take into account of is that some people don't know how to solve problems dealing with drama, depression, or even suicide because what school wants to have or wants to be known as that school that lets someone commit suicide to themselves because they didn't know what kind of person they were beforehand, before they came to the school. And that also has to go back to people getting recommendations from people and also your accomplishments list. An accomplishments list or credentials doesn't always tell someone who you are as a person. It simply tells someone what things you have done to make yourself look good. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. And then my last thing would be common sense. Everyone knows what common sense is the knowing what, why, or how you should handle situations similar to problem solving. And it's no more that you can really say about common sense that you either have it or you don't. So next I would just like to say thank you for watching my presentation.
What you've seen from Sarah persuading us on the benefits of positive co-parenting, and here with Talissa on the subject of improving education, is a self-awareness and a self-confidence on camera. They practice this so much that they feel very comfortable with all of these particular bullet points, all of the data that she provides in the headlines, which will stimulate her ability to be persuasive, conversational, extemporaneous. Pay particular attention to that title slide. It's very attractive aesthetically. Before we go to our third presentation of the day, this is Talissa's title slide from spring 2021. Let me show you one more time what Sarah's title slide looks like. And this goes back to the fall intersession of 2020. We'll take off the closed captioning and make full screen. Nothing calls attention to itself in terms of being sloppy or unprofessional. So that's Sarah. Now let's go back to Talissa. I still have hers at full screen on improving education. Here it is. You want to make certain that your title slide and everything else cries out professional with everything that you do. That sets the stage for an audience to really pay close attention, which leads us to our third example of the day, and this is called the importance of kindness. You've seen Madison before, student athlete, as was the case with Sarah, and what you just saw with Talissa. Nothing calls attention to itself in terms of lighting on the webcam. Our first speaker, Sarah, is upper right. Our second speaker, Talissa, bottom right. Madison, bottom left, telling us about the importance of kindness, persuasive speech.
My name is Madison Pogue, and this is my persuasive speech on the importance of kindness. I always grew up with the phrase, kill people with kindness, so I thought this was the perfect time to share why it is so important to be kind to others. So what is kindness? It's really hard to be kind to people if you don't even know what it means. So here are 5 words that I thought of as soon as I thought of being kind to someone. There's a couple that kind of stand out, so I thought I'd just go over those real quick. But gentle is probably like, what do you mean by gentle? So be gentle with people. You have to understand everyone's human. People are going to make mistakes. People are growing, they're changing, they're evolving into who they will be. And you have to learn on the way there. So you have to be gentle with them just like you would be gentle with yourself. Warm-hearted is probably another word that, or couple words that people are kind of a little bit, what do you mean by warm-hearted? So be inviting, be someone that people want to be around, and just be a light when you're in the room. Don't be someone who strips the room of anything inspiring or just nice and uplifting. Be someone who people want to be around. Your source of happiness, your source of energy, your source of light to people and their lives. So why is it important? There are 3 things that came straight to my head as soon as I was thinking about this: the golden rule, the unknowns, and mental illnesses, which I'm going to dive deeper in. So the golden rule, treat others the way that you want to be treated. So there's a lot of different ways that this saying goes, but it's all means the same thing. You want people to treat you with kindness, so you should treat others with kindness. So, I don't want to be yelled at. Personally, I really don't like being yelled at, so I'm never going to go to someone and start yelling at them. So it's just little things like that. It can get extreme, but just the basics are kind of what to focus on when it comes to being kind and being consciously kind to others. So the unknowns, what's going on in someone's life, the past, the present, and the future are all full of unknowns. We don't know everything that's going on in other people's lives. Only you know what's truly all going on in your life. I don't even know what all is going on in my life, if I'm being completely honest. So it's really hard to be able to judge someone's situation or how you should treat them. I think you should always treat someone with kindness, but especially since you don't know what they're dealing with at the moment, it's really important to stay kind and stay nice and be a positive person in someone's life. Never be a negative force in someone's life. So some things that you might not know about is someone passing away. That can really take a toll on someone's mental health, and which we'll get to that too, but it can really take a toll on them mentally, and you might not know because it might go on behind closed doors. Along with that, divorce or family, home type of issues that they are dealing with behind closed doors, so you have no idea. Trauma, whether this is getting in a huge car crash and then a bunch of things are happening in their life, or again, home life trauma that can mentally mess a lot of people up. So things like that, the list can go on, but those are just a few examples. So the last little bullet point that I had was mental illnesses. I touched on this with my athletes and mental illness speech a couple weeks ago, but mental illness is very prevalent in today, and especially in today's society with social media and everything like that. Depression, anxiety, just ADHD, all those kinds of things. If someone's kind to you, if you have a mental illness or not, it's always going to make you feel a little bit better, whether you like to admit it or not. Subconsciously, you are thinking, oh, wow, they took time out of their day to be nice to me, whether it was helping me carry my stuff into school or complimenting my shoes. It's just every little thing really matters, especially when it comes to people with mental illnesses, because they're fighting a battle in their head. And if you can help them at all with that, why not? So at least that's my thought process with that. If I can help someone out, help someone, whether it's with something, a task, or mentally, I want to do that. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are kind to someone today.
One of the things I talk a lot about is the ability to be authentic in terms of your persona. It's on the SAU speech critique. Do you come across as believable and knowledgeable, someone that you can trust? You can see that with Madison. You can also see she decided to take the 5-minute countdown on Loom. Look at this slide for just a moment. Full screen, not overly cluttered, webcam, bottom left, as we indicated at the outset, timer in gold, meaning that you're in the last minute and you can tell that it's recording. Let's move back, as we will be doing with everyone today, to the last 90 seconds with closed captioning up, complete sentence structure, eye contact, the ability to be conversational, thoughtful, knowledgeable, believable, persuasive on the importance of kindness. Here is Madison.
Getting in a huge car crash and then a bunch of things are happening in their life. Or again, home life trauma that can mentally mess a lot of people up. So things like that, the list can go on, but those are just a few examples. So the last little bullet point that I had was mental illnesses. I touched on this with my athletes and mental illness speech a couple weeks ago, but mental illness is very prevalent in today, and especially in today's society with social media and everything like that. Depression, anxiety, just ADHD, all those kinds of things. If someone's kind to you, if you have a mental illness or not, it's always going to make you feel a little bit better, whether you like to admit it or not. Subconsciously, you are thinking, oh, wow, they took time out of their day to be nice to me, whether it was helping me carry my stuff into school or complimenting my shoes. It's just every little thing really matters, especially when it comes to people with mental illnesses, because they're fighting a battle in their head. And if you can help them at all with that, why not? So at least that's my thought process with that. If I can help someone out, help someone, whether it's with something, a task, or mentally, I want to do that. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are kind to someone today. Hey, my name is Madison Pogue,
and I almost had it. Right.
Thank you so much for listening, and I hope
there. Take off the closed captioning. I'm big on the timing, as you're well aware. Is she wrapping up the speech in a persuasive fashion that makes you think about why kindness is important all the way through? I want to be that way as a professor. My comments for all of you to improve are ideally done in a kind way. I don't think you learn from being negative, but all of us have been around negative people, which really says more about the person being negative than anything about you. As what we just had with our previous speaker, take a look at all of these graphics. In Talissa's case, it was on education. In this case, with Madison, scrolling back with the images, the minimal approach to the bullet points. Can you tell with her eye contact, her expressive nature, looking at the camera throughout, that she is friendly, generous, which is a unique spelling, considerate, gentle, warm-hearted, believable. This is where you can tell if someone is practiced. If someone comes across as reading a speech or it comes across as hesitant with not a lot of pronunciations that are correct, that's where you can tell they're throwing it together at the last minute, or it should have been a recording that you watched to improve, but not a take that you would upload to send to me. It really is important. Can you tell from all of our presenters so far, they have practiced? Absolutely. Now we move on to someone whom you have seen before. This is Finley Blair, who was in this course during the fall intercession of 2020, during the pandemic, during the month of December, but set up exactly like a summer session course with 19 sessions. And this is on the subject of why you should set goals. Finley was very big on Slides Go. If you see all of her templates throughout the fall intercession, she is utilizing Slides Go, which provides many more creative aesthetics for templates than you might get on PowerPoint or on Google Slides. But again, why you should set goals? Here is Finley, now in graduate school at Texas A&M.
Hello everybody, my name is Finley, and today I'll be talking to you guys about why you should set goals. So first things first, what are goals? So goals are a set commitment one makes for themselves to achieve in the future, and goals usually require work and tend to help people plan for themselves. So basically what goals are is they are something that you say that you want to do, and then you have to come up with a plan in order to achieve that thing. And it's something that you haven't, you could have already achieved it, but usually it's something that you haven't yet achieved or that you are not currently achieving right now that you want to achieve. So you are setting in place basically an endpoint, a place that you want to be in the future. And so there are many reasons to set goals, but the reason that I will be discussing with you today are how goals direct focus, they provide short-term motivation, long-term vision, helping organize time, sustaining momentum, creating accountability, measuring progress, and they help to manage one's life. So the first thing I will be talking about is how goals help you direct your focus. So when you set a goal, you are basically telling yourself where you want to be in the future. And when that happens, you are able to allocate the set amount of time and energy in order to achieve that goal. And in doing that, you are automatically directing your focus because you have a starting point and an end point, and you are focusing your eyes on that end point, and immediately you begin to alter your life in ways to help you kind of reach that goal, which is good. The next thing I will be discussing with you is how goals help provide short-term motivation. So especially now because of COVID, it's very easy to fall into a slump and feel like you kind of have no purpose, you're kind of not moving forward in life. And what setting goals do is setting goals kind of give you something to achieve, give you something to look forward to move towards, to kind of give you that kickstart, that motivation that you need to kind of do things for yourself and also want to better yourself and things like that. I know especially for me, being home, it's like the days seem like they just repeat themselves and there's nothing really new going on. I feel like I'm not really working towards something, I'm not moving towards something. So what has really helped me is setting short-term goals, okay, this week I want to do this every single day. And it just keeps me motivated, keeps me kind of feeling like I have a purpose and things like that, which is always nice. And so the next thing is goals help provide long-term vision. So what this means is when you set a goal, you are kind of visualizing where you want to be in the future. And when you can see something, it's much easier to kind of achieve that thing and then set a plan in place in order to achieve that thing. So goals kind of help you decide where you want your life to be, where you see yourself and years ahead, and kind of provide purpose for you as well. And it provides something to work towards and allows you to create a game plan and put steps in place in order to be able to achieve that goal, which is always nice. And what goals also do is goals help you organize your time. So when someone sets a goal, they must allocate the time and energy in order to be able to complete it. And so what this does is kind of you have to prioritize. And so you will spend less time doing this, less time doing that in order to put the time towards achieving your goal. And what this also does is organize your life. So it organizes kind of what you're doing, what you're spending your time on, and it helps make sure that you're not wasting any more time as well. In addition, goals help you maintain momentum. So like we were talking about earlier, how especially lately it's kind of been hard to feel motivated, feel like you are keeping on moving forward and have a purpose. So what these goals do is obviously every single day you are trying to work towards that goal. And so when you are working towards that goal, you're inhibiting yourself from being able to remain at a constant and remain at the same place, because as you get closer and closer to achieving that goal, you are consistently moving, you're consistently improving, bettering yourself, things like that. And so they help you kind of maintain momentum, keep moving, and which is always good. And it helps kind of internally you feel better about yourself because you feel like you are bettering yourself, which always helps you kind of feel validated in the things that you are doing, which is always good. And so also what that kind of does is it helps you not fall into like a slump, not fall into a rut where you're just like staying stagnant. It helps remind you that you are moving, you have something that you must achieve, you have to achieve, or you're letting yourself down, which you don't want to do. In addition, goals help you hold yourself accountable. So they create accountability for yourself. A lot of times we are out of control about what happens in our life because life is life, and like things just come out of nowhere that we're not really in control of. But what these goals do is they put us in control. They give us kind of the say of how we're going to go about certain things in our life. They put us in control of our life. And what that does is it increases our self-confidence, our self-assurance. It's like we're in charge of whatever we are putting our mind to, and so we have to achieve it. No one else is going to achieve it for you. No one else is in charge of that. It's only yourself. And so basically writing that goal down, like saying that this is what you want to achieve, kind of helps you hold yourself accountable because you are the only one who is in charge of making that happen, no one else, which is always good. In addition, goals help you measure your progress. So when you set your goals, you are obviously at a starting point. So you have not kind of you're not on that path to achieving that goal yet, but you are at your starting point. And so what setting goals does is it helps you see where your starting point was. You remember where your starting point was, and it helps you see where you want to be, and then along that pathway you can see where you were and where you're going, and you can see where you are now. And the closer you get to reaching that goal, the more you can see how you are bettering yourself, creating just a better life experience for yourself in general. And it kind of prevents you from being able to just fumble around because you have this endpoint that you were looking at. And so when you see your endpoint, you see your starting point, you are able to kind of check off those little boxes on your way to completing that goal, which is always good. And so there's also this fact that if you write down your goals, you are more likely to achieve them, just because I'm not sure why, but I just know that if you write down your goals, you are more likely to achieve those goals. So it's very important when you are coming up with goals, saying that this is something you want to achieve, you make sure to write those down just so you are more likely to achieve them, more likely to complete them. And so last thing I would like to say is I believe that what everyone should do is everyone should set some goals for themselves right now, get a pen and paper and write some goals down. Goals are a great way to help you feel better about yourself, grow self-assurance, grow self-confidence, and I encourage you to set goals for yourselves so we are all able to kind of move forward, better ourselves together. Thank you.
What you notice with Finley, and it's quite impressive, no real breaks in thought. It shows you that one, she knows her topic on why you should set goals very, very well. And two, she's practiced quite a lot. To speak for exactly 8 minutes and be that smooth, that well organized, how does it start? With quality graphics. And before we get to that, let's return to the final 90 seconds of her presentation, double check her ability to speak in complete sentences while maintaining eye contact and persuading us on the relevance of setting goals.
You see where your starting point was, you remember where your starting point was, and it helps you see where you want to be, and then along that pathway you can see where you were and where you're going, and you can see where you are now. And the closer you get to reaching that goal, the more you can see how you are bettering yourself, creating just a better life experience for yourself in general. And it kind of prevents you from being able to just fumble around because you have this endpoint that you were looking at. And so when you see your endpoint, you see your starting point, you are able to kind of check off those little boxes on your way to completing that goal, which is always good. And so there's also this fact that if you write down your goals, you are more likely to achieve them, just because I'm not sure why, but I just know that if you write down your goals, you are more likely to achieve those goals. So it's very important when you are coming up with goals, saying that this is something you want to achieve, you make sure to write those down just so you are more likely to achieve them, more likely to complete them. And so last thing I would like to say is I believe that what everyone should do is everyone should set some goals for themselves right now, get a pen and paper and write some goals down. Goals are a great way to help you feel better about yourself, grow self-assurance, grow self-confidence, and I encourage you to set goals for yourselves so we are all able to kind of move forward, better ourselves together. Thank you.
So knowledgeable, so likable, so precise, so poised. Really is enjoyable to watch. The only thing I might tease her about, and I probably did at the time, is not all of you can afford a ring light. You're always going to be subject to whatever the best light is in the dorm room or wherever you are. I would really appreciate it if she could have found some kind of a light source where we could see her a little bit more clearly, but it's a small thing, had no bearing on her grade. Her professionalism, her likability shines through no matter what, as you can see from the webcam, and it's set up properly. Here we are on slides go from back to front with the overview, how goals measure progress, how they can create accountability, sustain momentum. Look at her eyes, bottom left of the screen, long-term vision, short-term motivation, directing your focus, reasons that goals need to be set with all of these bullet points, and an image. And then we come back to her title slide. Nothing calls attention to itself in terms of lack of preparation. You'll recall in Sarah's case, she put her timer on this portion of the screen but counted it backwards because she wanted to be exactly at 5 minutes. Finley was speaking right around 8, but whatever works best for you. But again, guys, I'll say it again, full screen, nothing on the left-hand side. And that brings us to our next presenter for the day. And this topic was of great importance to Lexi from the fall semester of 2020. And the time certainly does go by fast. It had been in the news and continues in 2023 to be in the news, with controversy still at SeaWorld. Lexi's persuasive speech from the fall semester of 2020 is why SeaWorld should be closed.
Hey everyone, my name is Lexi and I'm going to be doing my persuasive presentation on why I think SeaWorld should be canceled. I'm going to start out by talking about what SeaWorld is, even though I'm sure most, if not all of you, do know what it is, have heard of it, maybe have even been there before, but it's a theme park that's located in the United States. It's a proprietor of marine mammal parks, oceanariums, and animal theme parks. They have everything from whales to dolphins to sea lions, and they've even had penguins before. And here's the first reason why I think that SeaWorld is not suitable for mammals. The tanks are far too shallow. The deepest one is only 40 feet, and because of the shallow tanks, these orcas can get very easily sunburned. What they'll do most of the time is take zinc oxide and paint over the skin whenever they do get sunburned. And basically what this does, it doesn't help them at all. It just makes the skin look more smooth and makes them look more aesthetically pleasing for the consumers that come to watch them. Another reason why I think that it's not suitable, so SeaWorld also keeps sea lions, seals, and walruses, and they are kept in tanks with little to no shade. And so what happens is when they look up to ask for food or anything like that, They can be blinded by the sun. There have been cases where it has caused premature blindness in these animals. Here are some reasons on how this captivity has affected them in a negative way. So scientists have seen actual signs of stress from these mammals while being kept in captivity. One effect of this is violent behavior. So these encapturements can frustrate these mammals and cause them to attack each other, sometimes even their trainers or even members of the public if they get close enough. They also have a shorter lifespan, so the death rate for these mammals is 2.5 times higher than if they were in the wild. They also have repetitive and depressed behavior, so when they're enclosed in these water tanks for hours, they'll swim in circles endlessly, they'll lie on the floor for hours, and then they'll chew on the metal structures and the concrete, and what that does is it causes teeth breakage a lot. And so also because of this swimming in circles endlessly, it causes dorsal fin collapse, and it's 100% of the captive mammals have this, whereas only 1% has it in the wild. So here's some ways that I think that you can help. So you can support the WDC, which is Whale and Dolphin Conservation. What they do is they are dedicated to protecting these animals. They work to put pressure on governments to ban the captivity of these dolphins and whales. So you can also help put pressure on the government. Don't contribute to the demand by not going to observe these animals in captivity. They are losing money. You are reducing the economic incentives to keep this business going. And you can also support alternative things like sanctuaries. And what these do, they provide proper health and welfare, and they help prepare them for release back into the wild where they belong. And here are some successes of the WDC, of people who support them, what they have done, and what the public has helped them accomplish. So the U.S. beluga whale import has stopped. The WDC supporters help belugas captured in the wild from being imported into the United States. The Virgin bans wild captures thanks to the WDC campaigning. The Virgin Group pledged to make sure its partners who run aquariums will no longer take whales and dolphins from the wild. Orca shows have been phased out in SeaWorld. They shifted their efforts to education on animals rather than entertainment with animals. They've also changed some of their main attractions, so they have implemented more things like roller coasters and rides, instead of having attractions involving actual wildlife and having them put on the show. Also, they created the Blue World Project. It was $1 million project, and what it did is it intended to remodel and upgrade all the living environments that these animals were in. Its intention was to recreate the outside world, make natural-looking rocks, scenery, plant life, everything that they would see in the wild. And that is why I think that SeaWorld is not good for the mammals and they should be released. Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Lex.
As you can see, I was not talking a couple of years ago.
Mammals and they should be released. Thank you.
Right there. About wrapping up the presentation saying 1001, 1002. But that's okay, because SeaWorld, then as now, has been in the news because of its controversial nature, which Lexi brings out to a great degree during her presentation. So let's check out the last 90 seconds, examining her ability with everyone else to remain extemporaneous, conversational, speaking in complete sentences. If she wanted to, either then or now, add a video news story for additional source credibility, it would have been appropriate, but she didn't have to. So she's getting near the end of her presentation, how you can help. This is where closed captioning can also help you out. What do you see there? An Those will lessen in time.
These do, they provide proper health and welfare, and they help prepare them for release back into the wild where they belong. And here are some successes of the WDC, of people who support them, what they have done, and what the public has helped them accomplish. So the U.S. beluga whale import has stopped. The WDC supporters help belugas captured in the wild from being imported into the United States. The Virgin bans wild captures thanks to the WDC campaigning. The Virgin Group pledged to make sure its partners who run aquariums will no longer take whales and dolphins from the wild. Orca shows have been phased out in SeaWorld. They shifted their efforts to education on animals rather than entertainment with animals. They've also changed some of their main attractions, so they have implemented more things like roller coasters and rides, instead of having attractions involving actual wildlife and having them put on the show. Also, they created the Blue World Project. It was a $1 million project, and what it did is it intended to remodel and upgrade all the living environments that these animals were in. Its intention was to recreate the outside world, make natural-looking rocks, scenery, plant life, everything that they would see in the wild. And that is why I think that SeaWorld is not good for the mammals and they should be released. Thank you.
She was really passionate about the topic, and it comes out in her delivery. The one thing I would do if I were her, if she doesn't have a concluding slide as we take off closed captioning and mute the audio, then just leave it here and give your conclusion. Or if you want to have a concluding slide, something that may be a happy visual of wildlife or of any of these items, such as the Blue World Project, there would be a way to do it rather than, it looks a little awkward, but it really had no bearing on her grade, because you don't want to end like that. At the end of the slideshow, you don't want to end in black. So she brings her slides back up, and all of a sudden we can see what her entire computer looks like. Her design consistency from back to front with the WDC support and success. The Whale and Dolphin Conservation Project, how you can help, and she defines its goals and what it does. How captivity affects mammals with her bullet points. And we transition from that to why SeaWorld is not suitable for mammals, and she gives her rationale. And then back to the same headline with tanks and how the sunburn takes place. We move on to her title slide. All of us might have a unique setup, including lights. I'd probably make this a little bit tighter. And as with Finley, have a little bit of a brighter light right around the face. But all of this, now including her title slide, is very attractive. So that second slide, defining what SeaWorld is, because a lot of people may not know, and why it should be canceled, or as I phrase it on YouTube, why SeaWorld should be closed. Our last presentation of the day is persuasive. It is faith-based. It is called The Importance of Finding a Church Family. This is from Lindsay from the fall semester of 2020. So she and our previous speaker, Lexi, on SeaWorld were online classmates. The importance of finding a church family, our final presentation of the day. Here we go.
Hello, this is my wildcard speech, The Importance of Finding a Church Family. I grew up in church, but I was there because my parents made me go. The sermons didn't sink in, it was just routine. I was there every Sunday and Wednesday. I went to all the camps and on mission trips, but I never felt a part of. I never had a relationship with the ministers. The church never reached out to me. They didn't counsel my parents when we went through different things. They just weren't there for us like they should have been. It seemed like it was more of a show on who was there, and that's what mattered. When I overcame my addiction, I decided to get into church on my own, and I thought that I would church hop. So the first Sunday I went to the Cowboy Church, and it was good, but I decided I was just going to shop around, and I went to a Pentecostal church the next Sunday, and as soon as I walked in, everyone introduced themselves. They hugged me. They just made me feel so welcomed. And I started to realize that that was where I needed to be. And I realized the importance of a church family. I've never left that church since. And those hugs that I got from the first Sunday, I still get those every service. I know every single person in the church, and I talk to them all on a regular basis outside of church. We have so much togetherness that it's unreal. Sunday mornings, evenings, Monday Bible study, Tuesday gospel jam, Wednesday church, Thursday 180, which is a recovery group that has started since I've been going. And we have a lot of events outside of church, and after services, we usually go eat dinner together as a church. It may seem over the top, but I genuinely enjoy being with my people. They ask me how I'm doing, and I know that they really want to know how I'm doing. They all truly love my son, and even though we stand out and maybe a little different from what you would think a Pentecostal is, we're a part of, a huge part of. And we make a difference being there. I can't imagine going anywhere else. It's my favorite place to be. It's my family, my people. The ministers are there, and they're an example of how ministers should be. I talk to my pastor and his wife every day. We text every day. I talk to them more than my own parents. My son is excited to go, and on church days, he's ready. The church is there to encourage and uplift one another. Life is too hard to do on your own. You need others. And there's a lot of times I can't pray for myself, so I need people who can pray for me. And they do that. That's what they are there for. It's also good to have people to be accountable to and have people accountable for you. Sometimes we don't know what we're doing is wrong, and we need others to show us and guide us along the way. And pastors and ministers teach us and show us. I know I don't understand everything the Bible tells me, and I need someone who can guide me in the right direction of what I'm reading. Do we not all want to be loved and be a part of something? Do we all not want family and friends to go through life with? I don't look at going to church as going to church. I look at it as being with my people in a house filled with only people who love and care about me and want me to succeed in life. Doesn't that just sound amazing? Not only is the church good for me, but I know I'm good for them. I mentioned the recovery group we started. It's brought in a whole new group of people that never would have gone to that church before if it weren't for that group. And I know that there's people I can reach that the ministers might not can. We all need each other. Each member of the church is needed and very important. The difference in being a church attender and a member is commitment. Attenders are spectators from the sidelines. Members get involved in the ministry. Attenders are consumers. Members are contributors. If you don't have a church family, I encourage you to find one today. My life has been changed for the better since I found mine. And one of my greatest joys in life is watching my son worship and be involved at.
Now it looks like she's about to get cut off, because if you're taking the course over an extended period of time during a fall or spring semester, and you have a free Loom account, after roughly 30 days, you go from a period where you can speak as long as you want. Think Finley Blair during the fall intercession of 2020, where she's always speaking for about 7 to 8 minutes, where over a fall or spring semester, over a time of months, that 5 minutes, you're going to get cut off. A couple of these folks that you've seen, including Lindsay, are right at that 5-minute mark. That's why their timers are usually counting backwards from 5 minutes. Not an issue, however. Pay particular attention first and foremost. How does she have her slides set up? The more that you practice with Loom, the better off you'll be in terms of setting up the aesthetics. She made her slides slightly smaller. You can see it doesn't go all the way to the edge. You saw that with a previous speaker last week. What does that do? Bottom left-hand corner, with the webcam, it's not going to impede your ability to look at any text or any images, and that's helpful. She did joke during the term. She said, Professor Reppert, I don't know how to take the closed captioning off, which means that we will watch the last 90 seconds of her presentation with the closed captioning at the bottom of the screen, and I'm not going to add anything. Pay particular attention to how she reinforces her topic on the persuasibility and importance to her of finding a church family.
And pastors and ministers teach us and show us. I know I don't understand everything the Bible tells me, and I need someone who can guide me in the right direction of what I'm reading. Do we not all want to be loved and be a part of something? Do we all not want family and friends to go through life with? I don't look at going to church as going to church. I look at it as being with my people in a house filled with only people who love and care about me and want me to succeed in life. Doesn't that just sound amazing? Not only is the church good for me, but I know I'm good for them. I mentioned the recovery group we started. It's brought in a whole new group of people that never would have gone to that church before if it weren't for that group. And I know that there's people I can reach that the ministers might not can. We all need each other. Each member of the church is needed and very important. The difference in being a church attender and a member is commitment. Attenders are spectators from the sidelines. Members get involved in the ministry. Attenders are consumers. Members are contributors. If you don't have a church family, I encourage you to find one today. My life has been changed for the better since I found mine. And one of my greatest joys in life is watching my son worship and be involved.
So in those courses, they had to really be careful and back time their remarks. So if she gets cut off, it's got no bearing on her grade. However, always make certain that whether it's Microsoft PowerPoint or Google Slides, at the end of your slide construction, check consistency in terms of making certain that all of these items, the first letter of the first term is capitalized. And then here, had no bearing on her grade, but always double check the spelling. Even if you're a good speller like me, always double check to make certain that there's nothing that calls attention to itself. Her design consistency, reasons that you need a church family, all of those bullet points help her remain extemporaneous. And then we transition back from reasons you need a church family to a visual with members of her church family. And that's the 180 that she had referred to in a previous slide. The image on the right-hand side on how she's involved with the Pentecostals of Magnolia 4 days of the week, and then 180 on another day of the week. And then we just continue to check out her visuals where you are at the Pentecostal Magnolia Church with the church hunting, including the hugs, the love, as you can see, the no judgment, her closed captioning on the bottom, and then just continue to scroll back to growing up in church and how her church experience early on did not work for her because she felt it was forced, no relationships, and routine. And then we get back to her title slide. As with everyone that you've seen today, they make pretty decent and relatively consistent eye contact throughout their presentations. But most importantly, from each of those presentations that you've seen today, they're all thoughtful, they're all well researched, and always persuasive. So before we conclude for the day, let's go back one more time to the student preview mode of Blackboard. You can access your grades for the demonstrative and informative speeches, and here at Class Collaborate Ultra, go to the menu bar, find recordings. There are now 2 pages of course videos. That is our first class session at the end of May. And today is going to be session 12, which is persuasive speech research. And it will be right up here because virtually all of you had the power issue and you'll be watching these after the fact. We usually have an audience live with us, but that's okay. Homepage announcements, how you can view recorded archives of the course, instructor information with my website, which I showed you earlier, and YouTube. But course syllabus, let's end for the day at course itinerary. Try to get just about everything on the screen, at least for this week, with research, June 19, topic selection, June 20, Wednesday, day 1, Tuesday, day 2. Start to think about what your topics are going to be. Also, watch all of these course videos and the videos of our presenters today, which are quality examples of content, delivery, and visuals of what in my online course makes for an effective persuasive speech. So as we conclude for the day, we will continue tomorrow with persuasive speech topic selection. I'll go to Google Drive, which you can access at my website, and show you in detail some of the stylistic approaches and outline perspectives that people have put together in the past. But again, start thinking about what you would like to persuade the audience about. It doesn't have to be overly important, but something that is relevant to you and reinforce that persuasibility all the way through. As for SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking for the first summer session of 2023, that concludes the recording session for today.